Hi, so this is the first shared meaning video on my channel where I try to explain and put the context of how I came about with the things that I wrote, like poems, monologues, or any literary pieces. This poem is something that I made back when I celebrated my 25th birthday in September 2016. That was a very low point in my life. I celebrated my birthday in Baler, and I went there alone because I needed a break from life. I needed to have an alone time wherein I could write my thoughts out. I still feel the need to read it every now and then, and whenever I read that, natutuwa ako na, oy, ganito pala experience ko before. Ito pala yung thought process ko before. So this poem is titled Life, Crisis Life. I'm going to read it line by line, or if there are certain parts that demands an explanation, I'm going to do it. So if I were to make an equation for this thing called quarter life crisis, it would probably be this. Spend 2 decades building yourself up, muster up all the grit, spirit, enthusiasm that you can get. Create this cabinet for your achievements, 5 layers high, a full arm span wide. So ito, this is where back then, parang there's this feeling, there's this sensation of in my head. Ano ba tong nararamdaman ko? Why is there an existential dread? If this is quarter life crisis, could there be a definition for it where everybody could agree with? But for me, and how I defined it is basically I tried to make an equation na, oh nga naman, for the last 2 decades, for the last 20 years, nag-aral ka, you're trying to discover your skills, you're discovering yourself, you get into school, get your certain achievements or get your job done, and you were so excited that you wanted to have a display of your achievements. So back then I wanted to pursue graduate studies or maybe law. I wanted to get my own place and have a family residence. I wanted to continuously be active on my advocacy work. I wanted to play a role in the government or in social development. Continuing, but now what you have is just an empty one. So what have you done? You look through the glass panels and the absence of something, anything, those things reminds you of deadlines you've missed and plans that did not materialize. Adjust your gaze a little bit and you can see your reflection speak through your eyes. So on this specific part, I recall a time where I'm commuting via MRT and I was just standing. I was looking at myself at the window. At hindi ako nakatingin dun sa labas, but rather I'm looking at the reflection on the window itself. On that part, I can see my eyes. It's like it's so sad. It's having those deep thoughts, and I know what I'm trying to say when I saw that reflection. So continuing, it's not that you don't have anything to put in it, but the spot is reserved and you just don't see a substitute. It's not really failure, I guess. Maybe it's falling short of your self imposed standard of fulfillment and success, of worldly goals that no one told you to address. And for 24 years, you thought you have understood its meaning, but life is much more bigger than that. So it's not that I was irresponsible with my life. I think I pretty much fared through well. Like I was able to graduate in college na kahit may financial struggles in family, or I was able to get my job, I was able to get promoted on the first year of my job, I was able to get my insurance at a very young age, started investing. So I think I was doing good things. But comparing it to the things that I planned for myself, yun yung sense of disappointment na nararamdaman ko. So continuing. 25. It's the conflicting point where your idealism fuels you enough to make you believe you are powerful and able, but realities of life slam you to the ground and you just lay there, you think you are crippled. 25 is probably about balance. 25 is probably about keeping it together no matter how life is pulling apart. Scary as it may seem, 25 is probably about limitation in contrast to the things that made you feel infinite. There should be honor when you already know when to say, I'm not sure anymore, I don't know. That's the time you come into your senses. I don't know what the universe has to say, is saying, or has already said, but right now I'm listening, seeing, feeling more than ever. And at this very moment, out of all the inspirational quotes and mental notes that I kept so dearly, the safest thing to hold on to is that life goes on. So, ang part na to, this is basically me being so obsessed with trying to figure out life and try my best to act like an expert. Pero once you're in that position yourself, dun ka mangangapa, dun mo ma-admit sa sarili mo that you don't really get life, you don't know how to comprehend life, and the only thing that you can rely on is not really just on the books that you've read or on the inspirational quotes na naalala mo, but you started to be more open, sensing the message of the universe that it wants to convey to you. It doesn't wait for you to get it. It has no time to adjust for your struggles because when they call it quarter life crisis, it's just a convenient way to label a period of life relatable to almost everyone. It would make it easier to signal, okay, So here we are. So this period is filled with a lot of common issues that arise because of what society has structured our lives to be. So isipin mo, itong period na to, mga in your 20s to your mid-20s, this is where you graduated fresh from college, you started out in your career, and because of this, the financial issues, there will be some problem in your families. So where are the hands of time pointing at right now? You might have forgotten, but it's the same with your pubescent years. At midlife, you'll probably get a new set of issues and fears. You've heard of 7-year itch, life begins at 40, senior moments or golden years, and yes, this thing is even there on your deathbed. So as what you can see, this is where I try to clearly demonstrate that all throughout our lives, there will be different moments of crisis, and we call it differently, but all of these are crises. You would most likely have some issues about choosing your career over your family, having some issues with pregnancy because of the biological clock of women. Or, for example, this is the time where you have to think about family, marriage, child rearing, house investment, and things like that. It could also be, for example, the 7-year itch. This is where couples are losing their magic. They're no longer as intimate as before of when they started out. If you're 40, most likely these are adults who realize that they wanted something different in their lives, something that it requires a big switching of gears from what they initially wanted for the past 40 years. Even senior people looking back in their lives, this is where they have to think about, do I have regrets with my life? You have to look at your kids or your grandkids. What is your legacy once you leave this earth? Even on the point of the deathbed, where you are on your final hours, final minutes, do I stay or go? Where are you going? To hell or heaven? Continuing, crisis. It's the push and pull forces, science and faith, determination and insecurities, dreams and nightmares, you and others. But as long as you exist and choose to be alive, as long as you live and choose to feel, keep on moving and don't stall at 25. You can romanticize that figure, but don't think other life periods are not as equally earth shattering. So, back then on my 2016 self, at that time, that was me trying to reconcile what's happening with my life. Parang I'm trying to balance what faith is saying, what the science is also saying. Also have to have a balancing act between putting the things that you want or putting things aside for your family. Bayan muna ba or do you prioritize yourself? Specifically, this is a period where my brother was always hospitalized. He's a very sickly guy at that time, and I was the only one earning at that time sa family namin. So I have to shoulder the expenses. I had to look out for relatives or some family friends na where I could loan money from because hindi talaga namin kaya shoulder expenses. And also, out of my own pocket, I have to shell out some money. The problem with this is right after work, I worked in the night shift back then. I have to go directly to the hospital para mag-swap kami ng pagbabantay sa kay kuya. And imagine the exhaustion that I feel. After work, diretso kagad sa hospital and stay there. I have lack of sleep. Paggabi na, uuwi ako sa bahay to change clothes. And sometimes I just lay in bed and not know what to do because I think that I was overly feeling a lot of things at that time na no overwhelmed na ako. So isa pa doon, contributing to my depression, I honestly felt that I had a depression back then, but it was never really diagnosed. I was having these negative thoughts because I felt that my the things that I wanted to pursue in my life are invalid. Because for example, back then, I wanted to enroll for school. I wanted to pursue graduate studies, but I can't because I have to prioritize family. Like, it's not that I'm wanting some brand new car or brand new gadgets. It's actually some of the simple things that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to pursue for myself. Imagine you feeling that way, but you feel that you can't feel depressed because those are perceived to be not as depressing things as some very problematic situation. Pero that's how I felt, to the point that I even called suicide hotline, because sobrang overwhelmed na ng feelings ko and I don't know what to feel. Ang dami na nangyayari sa buhay ko and I just want it to stop. And that's when I'm having suicidal thoughts already and I just wanted to air those things out and talk to someone. So yun. Life is indeed a crisis, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure, I don't know, but hey, you're just 25 and crises are signs of life. Just carry on. So this is me trying to define life and find its meaning. And for me, life having crisis is normal. That's the reason of the title, Life, Crisis, Life. In between life, there will always be some crisis. I wanted to emphasize here, just carry on. Or sinabi ko dito na don't stall at 25, keep moving on. That is my way of saying to myself, do not take away your life. Do not give up on this. This is just a temporary period. There are a lot of things that are set out for you. Like this, what you're experiencing is something that you're going to experience again. But you have to feel it. You have to experience these things because that makes you appreciate life more. Once you're put in that position where you have a lack of sleep, you're exhausted, your finances are going for hospital expenses, you're worried about your family, you feel bad about wanting to prioritize yourself, you feel not achieving the things that you planned for yourself, that is a point of depression for me. Like for example, just to give you an added context, this is my planner from 2016, and on the first page I have my bucket list. So my bucket list when 2016 started, I was very optimistic, and when that happened sometime in the middle of the year, I realized that I can't do these things. I can't pursue my study. So one thing that I wanted to see here is if I chose to end my life at that time, I never would have realized na this action item of starting graduate school is something that I will be able to do in 2017, in 2018. So that was me telling to myself, don't don't attempt suicide. Don't give up. Just continue living. And I'm happy to say that 5, 6 years later, I'm still alive and I'm still kicking. And this is a very personal poem of mine, and I performed it as a spoken word on a video on my channel. This is where you get to feel the vulnerable side of Andrew. So there you have it. I hope you enjoy my first shared meaning video. I'm planning to do this for some of the poems that necessitates an explanation. So I think that works of art like poetry, although there's already a given value, I think having a deep dive on the lens of the author, the lens of the writer, gives you more an added context. There you have it. If you like the things that you see in my channel, please do click like, subscribe, and I'll be posting more videos soon. Bye.